Dr. Forte, the waiting room has been quiet for a little while. If you want to give it a few more minutes, if you want to start, that's fine either way.
Okay, great. I see 30 people are on the call, so we're pretty close to a full amount. We'd like to start off, just go through a couple slides and give you some time at the end to ask some questions. So the administrative team has put together a shell plan, some ideas, and we're ready to talk about it with the group. Our goal for this is to pretty much walk out of here with a direction of which way to go, and then to circle back and meet again the first week of July, where we'll finalize everything. And again, we're looking to have this it's approved by the Board of Education on August 10th, and before that, it has to go to the county superintendent's office. So this meeting will be interactive, not like yesterday where we really had too many people to do so. So we will have some time at the end to ask questions. You also can put some in the chat box, but yesterday the chat box had somewhere around 200 plus entries in it, which is pretty much unmanageable to get to each one. So if you want, for now, all the people who might have questions at the end, jot them down, and then let's ask them when we get to the end after we go through everything. Next slide. The roadback summary. I just wanted to go through this again so everybody understands the parameters we're working within from the state of New Jersey. So again, all districts are required to provide in-person instruction. So it's not up to us on whether or not we open the schools. As of July 15th at 3:05 p.m., we are instructed to open schools up. That doesn't mean that it has to be every day. It doesn't mean that it has to be for all children every day, but it means that we do have to have some in-person instruction as of September. Another piece that the roadback is requiring is face coverings for all staff. Social distancing of 6 feet or face coverings required for students. Now, obviously, we won't be able to provide 6 feet of distance the entire day, so there will be times throughout the day when students will be required to wear face coverings. We are looking at ways to make it so that students can remove face coverings, but for the time being, we will need to wear them at some point. Again, transportation as well, social distancing or face coverings, cleaning and sanitizing buildings and buses must be done throughout the day. We have to monitor the student flow, entry, exit, as well as just moving around the building. We have to also monitor and screen for symptoms. That does provide, there are some options for that. It's not a requirement to take people's temperatures. As of right now, the guidance we're receiving from our medical professionals would be that we would not be taking people's temperatures every day, but we would be monitoring their symptoms in two ways. One would be a self-reporting mechanism in the morning each day, as well as having trained staff at each entrance to the school to monitor a visual check of everyone to make sure that they're not exhibiting any symptoms. And the contact tracing will be done in cooperation with the local Department of Health. We do have some trained staff in contact tracing, but that is something that will be handled primarily through the Department of Health. And then again, the note at the bottom, these guidelines can change, and they do change daily, hourly, and we're not sure. So we just want to keep that they can change at any time. So here's our notes again. We are expecting that we would have a virtual and/or a live streaming program. The virtual program may include live streaming. We feel we have the capability of doing that, and we would like to do live streaming. And live streaming could be recorded as well and posted in teachers' Google Classrooms to allow them to, for children who cannot watch the lesson live, they could watch it later on in the day. We are working with our daycare provider. As of right now, our daycare provider feels that they can accommodate us for the half-day plan. I want to take a minute to explain this. The half-day program, one of the advantages of the half-day program would be that our buildings would be open for use by any aftercare vendor as for our children. So the children who are going to be able to go home at the half-day mark would be able to stay in our buildings with providers from the Lakeland Hills YMCA. If we do the every other day option, we will not be able to use our buildings because our buildings will be used by the children, by our own children for instruction. So that's something that we need to bring back up in a little while on another slide. We would have siblings attend school on the same days, even if they don't have the same last name. We'll work that out. So here are the driving principles, and they are in order. The first driving principle is student and staff safety, making sure that whatever plan we do to return to school is foremost considering student and staff safety. The second driving principle is the educational benefit. Like, what's the most educationally sound plan? That's what we're looking at. And then the last one, and it's important, but it's not the first two, is the convenience for staff and families. We do have to consider that, and that's why we are listing that as a driving principle, but the first two we have to do in order. Next slide. So here's our next slide. So let's just review with you the two different options that we think are viable. We have ruled out the, and it's not totally ruled out. If somebody really thinks it's better, you can bring it back up. But our administrative team has decided that the two plans on the top of the slide are the ones that we feel are the most educationally sound and viable for Denville students. The first one would be an A-day, B-day schedule, meaning everybody would go, half the kids would go to school on A day, while the B team would be at home learning virtually, and then it would switch. This would happen every other day. Now, we would plan to do it 5 days a week, not doing, some district looking at doing it 4 days a week. In our district, we would plan on doing it 5 days a week, meaning like A team might be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday the first week, and then they might be Tuesday and Thursday the following week. So that's one option. And remember that if students are in the school and we can't have 6 feet of social distance, they will be required to wear a mask. Now, obviously, we'll go through the pros and cons after, but let me just explain what the other one is. AM half days, all students would go to school for 4 hours in the morning. We would try to practice social distancing for some of the population. We probably won't be able to practice it for all the population. So face masks, face coverings will be required for some or all students for some or all the day. We would work in ways that we could have breaks from masks, getting kids outside, doing certain things like that. We also have some other ideas too. There's a possible consideration with the AM half days would be that we could allow the students to have their academics in the morning, their math and their ELA in the morning, and then in the afternoon have their specials virtually, like a virtual art class, a virtual PE class, things like that. There are advantages to that as well. So the next things we have down here is, because right now we're really focusing on those two options, we have some pros and cons. So on the left side, you have the A, B day pros and cons. And on the right side, you have the half day pros and cons. So we listed two, and we're leaving the rest open to try to fill in with the group. So the A day, B day pros, we have full day instruction, but a con would be less student contact. A day, B day pro, again, would be less students, which would provide more social distancing, but aftercare could not be used in the buildings. Now, the YMCA did tell us, I want to remind everybody, the YMCA did tell us that they could take some of our kids over to their building in Mountain Lakes, but it wouldn't be a lot. They're thinking 100 total, and that's for all of the districts they work with. So it would probably be somewhere in the 50 children range that they could take at their building if we decide to go with the A day, B day. So the half day pros, it would be daily student contact. So all students would be in school every day. Obviously, a con for that would be it's not a full day in person. And then half day pros, aftercare would be able to utilize our buildings, and half day cons, since there's more students in the building, there might be for some of the students, if not all, face coverings would be required more with the half day plan than it would be with the AB day plan, possibly. There's ways around that, and there's ways that we can talk about, and I'll show you a sample of something we're working on right now. Now I'm just going to open it up to Dr. Cohorts for a minute, if she'd like to add anything in there before we ask for some input from the group.
Just to clarify a little more on the half day. So for Valley View, it would look like a rotating schedule. So on a Monday, they would go to 40-minute classes of like first, second, third, fourth period. And then Tuesday, they would go to fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth, or actually, a mix of those kinds of classes. And there would be no lunch or recess, right? So that would be the part that would be gone, because we wouldn't have a group space to bring all of the kids at lunch and recess. So that is one of the issues with the AB, is we still have to try to bring a large number of people together for lunch at Valley View. As far as the half day for the elementary school, it would be their core classes, language arts and math, and then they would really probably be focusing on their science, social studies at home. So the virtual part that would be with their teacher would be in the afternoon, some specials, and then science and social studies, a mix, as well as some small group time where kids could get on and ask questions. Now, as far as the live streaming in either scenario, the live streaming, we're kind of working out those possibilities. But the live streaming would not be like a Skype, where they could be watching the lesson live, but it doesn't mean that the student would be able to raise their hand and then the teacher go over and watch the computer screen. Questions from students that were home, like on an AB day, if they were watching, they would not be able to ask their questions at that time. They would have to wait to a designated question time, later in the day or when the teacher was available. Because on the A day, if the students were in the classroom, the teacher would be concentrating on the students that were in the classroom at that time, giving them the one-on-one and small group instruction. And then at home, they would either be watching a video of the taped lesson that was given live, or they would be watching the lesson live, but again, questions would be asked later. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit about what the half day would look like. It is 4 hours. We're not talking about 2.5 hour day. We're talking about 4 hours of instruction, no recess or lunch. The elementary school would have designated breaks where they can go out in small groups to go outside for like a recess, but only in small groups, like they're only their class. Any of the principals want to add anything to that idea? Okay, Steve.
So we said we were looking at some other options for how we could socially distance kids. So I don't know how good this is going to come across on the camera, but this is what we're looking at. So, I know it's really weird. I don't know how good you guys can hear me now, but it's a plastic shield made out of plastic. It's affordable. It's foldable, and we may be able to allow kids to take the mask off if they're inside of it and contained. The sides are like this. We have worked with a few vendors, and we looked at a different sample. We have a few samples. The one that I just showed you is the one that we feel is the best one for our needs. And we do have some other ways to separate the kids with other shields as well. They're called sneeze guards. I think that's a brand new word because I never heard that before. But now we're starting to learn all different types of vocabulary. So now add to that sneeze guards. So we're looking at looking at purchasing some of those too. And maybe it could be considered either another layer of
Right.
of protection for everybody, or a way to reduce the need for masks. I mean, it's possible that they'll have to wear masks and that. I mean, I'm not sure about that. We have to still get that approved by the county. But for right now, going by the regulations in the road back, we feel that we should be able to use those. And we have been talking to other districts as well to allow students to take off their masks while they're inside of it or contained in it.
And that is like the I'm sorry, Steve. That is like a personalized one that which is foldable and take with them, which is great for like Valley View. We also have ones that are clear on all three sides that are about 2 feet high for one-to-one teacher. We have some that are clear that have a pass-through when teachers and students need to pass through materials between them. We also have small group instruction, like our reading tables, so that there's a divider between the teacher and student, but also each student that's sitting at the table. So there is quite a variety of different dividers that we have depending on the scenario. And I think one thing we really wanted to do was look at the pros and cons and hear from the committee about other pros and cons for these two plans.
So for now, you can unmute yourself and we'll see how this goes. If you can, we'll try to do it one at a time. Bring up some pros and cons for this slide and we'll discuss them.
So the AB day versus the half day.
Hey, Steve, it's Mike Anderson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey. So I like the half day option. I think that one of the pros there is that it gives options. That third driving principle you talked about, which was the convenience for staff and parents. I'm not sure on the staff side if it helps, might be a little bit, but certainly on the parent side, I think it adds a pretty big pro there, because if someone has to work all day, it gives them an option. It may be a cost if they need that daycare in the afternoon, but at least it gives them the option to do that. Where the AB days, really, there's not the options may be significantly limited with daycare on that opposite day. One of the cons of that I think we need to seriously consider is it is double the amount of students in the building. So I think that the contact, not only more masks, but just the amount of contact, are we comfortable with that? Is that something that's of concern? Not sure what the answer is, but certainly something to consider.
So one thing, that's a good point. One thing that we've been working on with the principal is to try to make it so that we can socially distance the youngest kids and the kids that are the most needy with special education students, things like that. So we may be able to, by spreading children around the school in larger spaces and increasing our workforce by using some of our specials teachers and maybe some aides that are certified, to be able to provide an opportunity where students will be in smaller groups and not have to wear the masks for at least the kids in grades pre-K, K, and 1, and maybe even grade 2. So that's something that we're looking at. We're not sure we can do it yet, but it's something that we're definitely considering.
Hi, it's Carrie. Can I speak for a second?
Yes.
You hear me? Okay. My question is, I guess, with the number of students per class in the half days versus the all-day program AB classes, would there be less kids per class if they're in the AB program because it's split versus 5 days a week? And would the kids almost be in like cocoon type where they would just constantly be with their peers and no other children throughout the week?
They would be working in either scenario. They're going to be in cohorts. So we're already looking at even assigning the specialist to be with that cohort. So like the music teacher would be assigned with a specific first grade group during that time, so that it does build that cohort, that they're not intermixing with the other students even in their grade. If we're in the AB day, definitely would be smaller class size just because only half would be coming. So no matter what, it would definitely be smaller. But with the half day, one thing that we've been looking at is making really more classrooms in the building. So like taking the gym and dividing it into 4 classes so that the teacher could do a mini lesson with the whole group, and then they could divide up into 10 and 10, with the second teacher, like to go do the actual, independent work. So we're trying at least with 3 grades able to do that. We would not be able to do that at Valley View. Valley View would be, the 20 in the class with their masks, or behind their dividers can take their mask down,
Thank
But
you.
I know that both Mr. Corman and Mr. Englishman have worked on it, are trying to work on a schedule where kids don't move as much in any scenario. Like they stay in the room as much as possible, but it can't be perfect. Like for those 4 periods, if it were a half day, for the 4 periods, they would see probably at least 3 classrooms during the day. The kids would visit 3 classrooms in Valley View. Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask, Carrie, was that Carrie Gramo?
Yep, that's me.
Thank you.
No problem.
And Carrie, you're a new parent to the district, am I correct?
I am. Yeah, I have 1 daughter. She's going into kindergarten.
Great. That's one of the groups that we wanted to make sure we represented, people that we didn't know as well yet coming into the district. So we appreciate you joining the group with us.
Oh, no problem.
I had a quick question. One issue is the AB Pro. I do like the idea of the smaller classroom. I think that would be very important to me. As far as a working parent, I personally, and I know people have all different kinds of jobs, having a full day of instruction and being able to arrange for daycare on the off day is actually an easier prospect for me, but I don't know how others feel about it.
And what's your name, ma'am?
Yes, Joanne Lambert. So my daughter is going into 2nd grade, and I have a son in high school as well.
So you would prefer the A day, B day schedule?
I would, yes.
And you find it that it would be easier for you to find daycare on the A day, B day schedule, even
Yes.
something that you would do outside of school. We wouldn't do
Correct.
it, wouldn't be working with us.
Correct.
Okay.
Dr. Forte, this is Cindy. I just wanted to point out about the kindergarten and the lower grades with the AB day and the possible half days was, although it provides on the AB days less children, in the beginning with younger age kids and the new school year, I think you'll go through a lot more first days almost, days where children haven't seen their teacher for a day or 2 or 3, and now they're back to that scenario again, and it'll take much longer for them to get into the habit and the comfort of being around their class and their teachers.
That makes sense, like less continuity.
Yes.
And actually, hi, this is Jen Blanchard. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I want to comment on that. Everybody's saying such great thoughts. We appreciate it all. I'm kind of leaning towards personally the half day. And I'm going to tell you, I come from both ends as a parent, but I'm also a teacher in a different district. And I agree with what Cindy, you just said about A day, B day. That is the problem when you talk about continuity of instruction. As a teacher, A day, B day is going to be really difficult because in my one sense, I would be preparing my sorry, I was muted. I would be preparing for in-classroom instruction, which is 100% on the opposite side of the spectrum of distance learning. So you have to think about that for students as well. One day they're in the classroom and they're receiving this type of instruction, then they go home and they do this kind of instruction. And I think in terms of staff and teachers, that, I think poses a problem as well when you're talking about the continuum of instruction. And you know what, Joanne, I appreciate what you're saying, because Yeah, I think it's going to be different for all different kinds of people. So like for you, the AB day is it would be easier for you to find daycare for that day. But I'll tell you personally, for me as a parent, the half day would be easier for me to find daycare. And I think it depends on the ages of your children, you know, where they go to school, where they're at. So it's so hard to see, you know, which would be the better. But I think the half day would really help, in my personal opinion, with the continuity of instruction. They're there every day. Core stuff is in the morning, and then science, social studies specials in the afternoon at home online. Now, I'm a gen ed special education teacher, so I'm not speaking for the specialists, the poor specialists, you know, they have a job to do too, the art teacher, the music teacher, and all of them, and we can appreciate that. But this is such a strange situation we're in, so that's it.
True. I mean, I unmuted. I feel badly for our specialist program because I know that they're not going to get nearly the amount of time. We're trying to build in things like, you know, breaks for the kids so that they can, because they certainly can't sit there for 4 hours. So we know those things have to happen. But it's very difficult if what gets put on the back burner. And I do think that in the 3 months, you know, the March to June, our specials definitely did not get their normal time. And I'm not sure that they would until we're back full days, you know, because we do have to fit in a little of that and a little science social studies. I mean, of course it goes somewhere. I mean, it's going to come from somewhere. The only place that would get that is Valley View, because Valley View would get all their classes, you know, a full period every other day. So they would see peers every day, and they would see their teachers for that course every other day. You know, so.
Jen, do you think your daughter could chime in a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Hold on. I lost her for a second. Come on in, Lena. She was listening and she just stepped out to use the bathroom. Sorry.
No problem. So Lena is a middle school student, and she's going to give us her take on the A day, B day, or half day.
Well, I like the AM half days, but then I also like the A day and B day, but I feel like I'll do any of them because I think it's best if they just wear the mask because they love talking together, and in school they just like to hang out, and this is when they like to hang out with their friends.
So you're talking about social interaction, being with others.
Yeah.
So we missed the first part of your did you say the A day, B day, or the half day was what you thought was better?
I like the AM half days. So then, because like you don't have to be social distancing, you can wear your mask and you guys can talk with your friends and stuff.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Make sure if you have anything else to add, make sure, you know, you're very important to this group here. So we want to hear from you if you feel like you have anything else to add.
Okay.
So can we open it up to anybody else in the committee that would like to talk about the two options that we're discussing now?
Steve, I'm sorry, just before I'm sorry if I'm cutting anybody off. The other thing Lena and I were talking about was also, but A day, B day, the students would have to have lunch at school. How would that look?
Yeah, that is definitely to me, a con.
Yes, it's a huge con.
Yeah, having lunch at school, and even some of the specials at school, like phys ed, it offers more problems to deal with. And I want to make sure everybody knows that we would still be providing lunch to all free and reduced lunch children, but it would, if you did the half day program, we would do it. We would still do it. It would be delivered to their house rather than handed to them. But we do have a plan for the free and reduced lunch kids if we do decide to go with the half day.
Yeah, the lunches right now, it would be in the classrooms. And so it's a matter of figuring out how do we clean, you know, we'd have to clean the desks between when it becomes class and lunch, but they would not be able to go to lunch as a whole group. Like the whole grade couldn't go. Even at Valley View, 300 would be too many.
So, Dr. Cullis, if I could just chime in.
Right, so you'd probably Okay, please do, Seth.
Yeah, no problem.
'Cause
So
you're a specialist.
At Valley View, if we did the A-B day and had to have lunch here, we would have to use all of our large spaces as much as possible, and then probably a classroom or two to socially distance in those areas as well. It just is not feasible. We don't have the classroom space to have every kid just stay in their fourth period class, for example, if they were in sixth grade, to eat during fifth period. So we would still use the cafeteria, our gym, and other large spaces, just spread out a lot more. The other thing that I just want to make sure everybody understands is if we do the half day that we're talking about at Valley View, the kids would see every class every other day other than their lunch period. So they would still go to PE if they have it on an A day. We have a very unique schedule being worked out for both. But they would still go to all of their classes. They'd get their specials here in the building, and we would use the afternoon in a different sort of way that we're still talking about to make sure that we can assist the students in their learning. So I just want to make sure that was expressed for the Valley View, because it's a little bit different than the two elementary schools.
Steve, I hope you don't mind me saying, the other thing that kind of struck me, it's Jen, was with the 8AB day. Luckily, this doesn't affect me. I was just curious for any of the other parents if not having a consistent schedule every week, if that would be an issue as well. You know, like 1 week you're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the next week, Tuesday, Thursday. I don't know. That's just one of the things that struck me right off the bat that I was curious about.
I would love to chime in too for a second, if I may. So I'm Adrienne Bellani. I'm the new PTA president for Lakeview Elementary School, and I also have a lot of years under my belt as a school psychologist in another district. So I'm kind of looking through, and of course, both options certainly have their pros and cons. I have talked with a lot of parents, a lot of people that are working parents, some people that are home. Most in favor, and myself in favor, of the half day. I love the idea of the continuity of instruction that Jen had mentioned also. I think especially for students who need additional services, like related services, this may make it easier to have the time in the mornings. I love that Jen's daughter presented the idea of the social interaction between the kids. I have twins going into second grade, a boy and a girl, in different classes, and they are dying to see their buddies. They're dying to see their teachers' faces, and I would love to see that happen for, you know, even if it's 4 hours a day versus our traditional school day, every day, if that's possible. I know they're pretty well versed at this point in the necessity of wearing a mask, if necessary, for as long as necessary, if that's a requirement. If maybe we could build in some mask breaks in a safe place, or if we're going outside, if then they're able to social distance and take the breaks in that way. I think the food presents a whole lot of other challenges having lunch in the building. So I just wanted to share my thoughts there. And I love the idea of the plastic corrals, the sneeze guards. If they have the windows on each side, they can even stay at their desks and still be able to communicate more safely with students and teachers in the classroom.
Great, thank you. And I'm glad you like those little shields that I just showed.
I love it. Great.
It'd be great. Yeah, it'd be great if we could use those to allow the kids to take their masks off.
Right.
So yeah, I think everybody's given some great ideas, some good points. Somebody just asked, Jen Swickla asked, are we beholden to the current indoor gathering guidelines? So the thing that guides us is the road back, and the road back is different. It doesn't mention that you can only have 100 people in an area. I mean, you have to keep kids either 6 feet apart, or they have to have a mask on. And that's the rule they came up with. So obviously things are changing every day, and we're not sure how it's gonna, the final product will be. For right now though, that's the rule. It would be either you have to be 6 feet away or you have to wear a mask. Anybody else want to chime in on the two different plans? And if you like one of the plans we talked about last night, now's the time to bring that up too. But I am happy that everybody's kind of focusing on the two. But if I don't want to be the one to say that the other ones aren't viable. One other thing I want to talk about is just quickly is that in our district, if we did the A-Day, B-Day, we would do 5 days a week. And that would cause an issue with some people because you would be 3 days one week, 2 days the next week. And in some other districts are only going to do 4 days a week, and 1 day a week would be totally virtual for everybody. So that seems like what the majority of the districts are talking about right now. There's about 3 or 4 districts that I know of that are talking about the half-day schedule. Okay. So
Steve, this is Mary Farron. I just wanted to add, as a working parent, and I work from home, I think having the half day and having it consistent each week would just help from my standpoint as a parent. And I also think from the kids' standpoint of just having that continuity of having a set schedule in which they're having to wake up every morning and go to the same spot and being able to get back to some kind of normal schedule in which, you know, they're doing something pretty consistently. And then especially my kids are now going into 4th and 6th, so they're a little bit older. But I think for the younger ones, just thinking back to when my kids were going into kindergarten and 1st grade, it was a lot of unknown, and it was, you know, scary. And having, you know, going only every couple of days, I think may not help to build those relationships as quickly.
Okay, great, thank you.
Charlene Scott. I just wanted to chime in. I'm an instructional aide at Valley View. I'm also a parent to an incoming 6th grader and 5th grader. I am in favor of the half day. I feel, working with some of our special needs community has shown me that they need to go to school. They told me that they miss school, because what we fail to realize is a lot of their home environments are not conducive to learning. If they have a sibling home with them and the sibling is playing video games while they're trying to learn, they can't do it. And I see that even in ESY now while they're home. So getting them into a building for 4 hours a day is going to allow them to focus on everything that they need to focus on without any kind of distraction. And even if it means having a mask on for most of the day, I think that they're all capable of doing it, especially because we've been doing this for a few months now. So I feel that it would definitely benefit our special needs community as such.
Thank you. There was a question about busing on here, and the question was, would the busing remain the same? We would definitely need some help from parents, and we would have to go to the public and ask people to drive their children and pick them up if they can, because we would only be looking at somewhere around 50% capacity on the buses, and that would be with the masks. So we feel that we can still bus, we can get kids to and from school, but we would definitely need some help from parents to drive. This is where the community has to realize their role. Their role is going to be to try to help. Any help they can give us in getting the kids back to school would be definitely getting kids to and from school. And we also have Sergeant Jackson on the line, who's a parent as well as the person in charge of traffic for the Denville Police Department. We work closely with him on any traffic or busing related issues. And one of the things that we will be speaking to him about is if we increase the amount of parents dropping children off at school, what does that do to the traffic around the school, and possibly making some adjustments to drop-offs in the 3 locations. Anybody else have comments about the 2 different plans?
I also am in favor of the half day. This is Jen Summer. As a teacher of 1st graders and as a parent of a kindergartner and a 1st grader coming in, I feel like I'm not sure how I could help, you know, my student who's, let's say, doing, you know, home instruction on their B day, and then I have students in school on A day. So, and I can imagine that working parents, you know, I imagine all working parents would be in a similar predicament, that who is going to help that child on the B day who's, not able to do the virtual learning independently. So I think that becomes the biggest challenge for that. And, putting it in their hands of another caregiver or a grandparent, it's definitely not going to be the same quality as they would get as if they were in school every day for a half a day.
Mrs. Sommer, would you mind telling everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, and as a parent and an employee?
Yes, I have I actually am a staff member for 16 years. I teach first grade, but I also have 3 children at Lakeview School. I have a kindergartner. I have a special education first grader who also has a significant health problem. And I also have a 5th grader. So even through the guidance of even my child's physicians, even they are recommending that my child with a heart condition return to school every day. They think that the consistency is so important. The fact that she has special needs is also important for consistency, and that the virtual learning just isn't as effective in these younger grades because they require, so much parent support, and they're just, they don't have the same computer skills as the older children do.
Miss Summer, you forgot to mention you're the Girl Scout leader extraordinaire.
Why, thank you. I wear many hats, but I love them all. And, I think that we did virtual learning and we made it work in first grade. But I definitely think that nothing beats the time in the classroom with the teacher instructing face-to-face, even if it means the kids have to wear masks. I think they're going to eventually get used to them. And I think it's going to be the adults that complain more than the kids, if you ask me.
Probably right. Let's see if somebody other comments on here.
Can I jump in here for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abdul Satan. I have a couple of children at Lakeview School. Thank you for inviting me to the call. So I've been listening to everyone. I think that in weighing all the options, I think that everyone raised some really, really good points. And I don't know that there's a bad choice between the two, right? Because on the one hand, I think that allowing working parents to work a full day is valuable. But on the other hand, the consistency, right? And so I hear that for the students. I go back though to one of the guiding principles, right? And that is making sure that our young people, that our students, our children are safe. And it seems that, again, seems being the relative term here, it seems that the AB day would allow for less students in the schools each day, and thus less potential contact and exposure. So just in terms of weighing, the pros and cons and that being, paramount in terms of wanting students to have less contact and thus less exposure, I'd be in favor for the AB day, but I don't think that the half day is a bad alternative. The one thing that I would ask is when we are homeschooling for the spring semester, or the spring a part of the calendar, I know that we had to provide our children with instruction and, dare I say, coaching for during that time. And so whatever model we go with, I just wanted to see if or ask, are there going to be any ways to further engage the kids without the parents being the ones providing that instruction and coaching? Because if we're not able to do so because of, if it's just kind of, difficult math, or if it's difficult formulas, or if we don't have the skill sets or what have you, I just wanted to know if the committee thought about other ways to engage students during the time that they're not going to be in school, besides kind of popping in front of the computer, watching instruction, and then answering questions on their own.
One of the things that we're looking to do more of next year, if we are virtual in any capacity, which obviously we will be, would be some more synchronous learning, virtual synchronous learning. So that's something we're going to look at, and we will be developing a full plan for virtual instruction as well as whatever in-person instruction we have. There will be more training and more materials, more devices, and we did purchase the professional Zoom so that people can use Zoom, which does have more functionality than Google Meets. So we're taking what you said to heart, and that's something that we're working on as a district. There's somebody else typed in a question: is one option better than the other in case of someone testing positive in school? Interesting question. We're gonna be running this by the health department once we have our plan. The health department guides us in all those matters, so it would be difficult for me to answer that. I don't really know if it would be better in either case. I could kind of think about it, but it seems like it's something I would want to run by the health department before we answer that, or our school physician too.
Hey Steve, it's Mike. Real quick, and I apologize, guys. I didn't introduce myself when I spoke earlier. My name is Mike Anderson. I'm a Board of Ed member in my 6th year on the board. I also have 3 kids, 2 of them twins that are going up to Valley View next year, and then an incoming 5th grader. Hey, Steve, can you talk a little bit about Riverview Annex and the additional space we'll gain there? Because that may also add some context to kind of the space question we have.
So Riverview Annex can be used to a degree to reduce it. Now it's going to help reduce give us more room in Riverview. Obviously, it also will help a lot with the aftercare program. One of the issues, obviously, this is important. One of the issues that we're facing too at the same time is that while we're being stressed and looking to increase our footprint and have more space, we're also being stressed financially due to the fact that the state has cut back our district aid, and therefore making additional staff hires very difficult, considering that we're also opening a building at the same time. So we are being stressed financially. We don't think we can say all of a sudden we're going to hire an extra teacher for each grade. So we can move kids around. We can spread them out as much as possible using our existing staff, and we will look at using the annex as much as possible to do the same. Another person put up here in yesterday's meeting it was discussed that a form would be completed at home prior to school or any other measures being taken. So that would, right now, the plan for screening students would be a home self-reporting form each day, as well as a screening at the door, not necessarily temperatures, but screening at the door with trained staff to look for symptoms of people who are walking through. Again, that's another thing we have to get approved by the health department and our physicians. So we're working on that. We have another question: with the 2 plans, each including more in-person time, is there a plan to adequately sanitize each classroom throughout the day and in between the school days? So we did purchase some new equipment to do that, and we are able to sanitize buildings much quicker. So we can do an entire building with 1 or 2 staff members in just a matter of a couple of hours. It's a special equipment that we purchased. It provides a spray. It's all OSHA approved, and it's okay. It doesn't have any harmful effects. The drying time is very short. It's probably not something we could do every day, all day, like do throughout the day, but there are plans to provide the classrooms with some wipes, things like that, so that we can sanitize the hard surfaces that children are sitting at. And now even with these new bubble things that we're buying, we would have to sanitize those as well. So that's another, just more stuff to sanitize. So we are working with our vendors. We have already been training our staff since this whole thing happened, and we did purchase several of those units, and we have a few more that will be in our hands in August. Any other questions from the group or comments?
Dr. Forte, it's Cindy Costanza again. I just wanted to make sure, because I was very involved with teaching virtually or supporting the teachers and the students virtually last year. And I just wanted to point out that when you do an A-B schedule, the kids aren't off on B if that's when they're off. They're still, you know, now you're asking your students to participate all day and sit in front of a computer basically as much as they can during the full day if they want to participate in live streaming lessons, if we do offer that. So, you know, getting a babysitter may be, okay, have a babysitter for Tuesday, but can that babysitter participate in helping that student get any of the work done, or is a full day going to be expected to be made up when somebody gets home? So I just wanted to point out that it's not a day off, it's just a day where a student would be virtually learning rather than being in school. And my other question to you would be, does having the half day provide more time for cleaning than the AB day, since there's clearly less hours between the next day starting with an AB day?
That could be a positive as well. The idea that the schools would be available for cleaning a little bit earlier. Any other comments or questions? Let's see, we have yes, we have looked at that. We have on our call here, Damaris Gorowski, our business administrator, and our also our director of buildings and grounds, and they have been looking at that as an option. Do either of you have information on that, of whether or not we're getting closer to purchasing that or implementing anything with that? Maybe we haven't gotten as far with that as we should, but we're working with our vendors on that. Could the half day also provide teachers with valuable prep time? That would. Well, go ahead, Sandy.
I was just gonna say the plans that, you know, if we were just throwing out scenarios, that would be, the afternoons would be a significant time for the elementaries for the prep and lunch. And Valley View, some prep time, I mean, the contractual time, and then opportunities to meet with kids one-on-one or in small groups virtually for extra help. You know, so there's, no matter which scenario we pick, teachers will get their contracted prep time in there. Because obviously it's very important. We're prepping for two different things.
There's another question, Sandy, too.
Sure.
The AB day, is the teacher expected to reteach the lesson on the second day live, or is every day a new lesson?
It would be every day a new lesson, would be the intent. If it were AB, you can see the problems with that. So certainly you can't guarantee, and that's what we were talking about amongst us, is that you can't guarantee that they did the work at home. So when they're coming back, it's gonna, in reality, it's going to be almost like repeating. If that's the case and this went on for a whole year, they would only get 50% of the instruction for the year. As opposed to getting 100% of their, I mean, I'm talking just from the curriculum instruction perspective and not from all of the other issues that we have. The half day provides a better chance at getting more learning in. I know that the intent would be that they would be at home learning on their own for a day and come back and get new material. I just don't think that's a reality. I think it's going to end, and teachers, you can chime in, I think it's going to end up being the same lesson done twice, you know, every other day. And so then you get half the instruction for the year, or half the instruction for whatever time we're doing this.
Yeah, this is Jennifer Swickle. I teach 5th grade at Lakeview, and just want to kind of concur with what Dr. Cullis was saying, is that, you know, if we're on that AB schedule, you're going to get these kids that were, you know, home the one day, and they're going to come to school the next day, and they're going to be asking for clarification questions, possible reteaching on the things that they had to learn either by watching a live stream or things like that. And it would, I feel like you'd be constantly in that process of, you know, reteaching and reteaching and reteaching, and not really pushing forward as much. So
there's another question here. Would virtual lessons be mandatory? Has the state changed the attendance requirement? So the attendance, we have been told to be flexible, and our attendance policy is flexible. And would lessons be mandatory? We don't know if it's mandatory from the state, but we would be providing virtual lessons for students who are not in attendance. The big question there is whether or not parents can opt their children out of coming to in-person instruction without some type of a valid medical reason. So we're waiting for clarification from the Department of Education on that. The next question was, would the half-day model focus on core academics in person in the morning with specials in PE? And then also just an idea, would teachers agree to have their daily 4-hour day recorded? So we're working on the recording issue with our attorneys to make sure that that's legal and anything that we need to do from there. And I'd like to have Dr. Cullis answer the first part of the question about if the half-day model focus on core academics in person in the morning with specials in PE.
Well, the core academics would be in the morning. So we would be focusing in the elementary school. It would be ELA and math primarily, and then also the social emotional health. So every day we would still do social emotional health, which is our character education program, our morning meeting, because that is still, we have to build that in. Our first draft of a possible schedule contains science and social studies in the afternoon with some built-in specials, but it wouldn't be, the science and social studies would still be part of the afternoon. So some core content would be. At Valley View, it would be different because they would get all of their classes in 2 days. So they would hit all their classes, electives, and their core classes. But elementary, primarily their math and language arts while they're at school. We are working, our science vendor has now created all of our Amplify K-5 science. They have now created an online, all of the units that we have live, they have created to be virtual as well. So the students would be able to access their video, the teacher instruction, and then all of the work that they would be doing. They have now modified it so you can select it to be in-person science or you can do the online units. Now, that's not true of social studies. The teacher would still be 100% having to deliver that social studies instruction. And then we would have to work out, again, once the plan is decided, all the details, it will fall into place for us, like which plan, once this committee decides on a plan, then we can kind of cross off the other plan and really focus on the details of who's going to do what and exactly when. But we have started thinking about some of the questions you've asked, because we're asking them too. We're like, well, what about this? And what about the scenario? And when do they do PE? They do have to do 100, doesn't matter if it's home or at school. We still have to offer 150 minutes of physical health, physical movement and health. So we will still do those minutes at school. So they would still do physical 20 minutes a day and the emotional health 15 minutes a day. So they still have to do that 35 minutes a day while they're in the building. Now, PE will look probably different because it would be, we'd have to socially distance, smaller grouping, the kinds of activities they can do, we'd have to do something different, probably a lot more yoga and walking. There'd be a lot more, we would have to change that up of what they do. But that requirement hasn't changed from the state.
So from Mr. Staten has a question too. It seems most students would have most interactions, in most contact in large groups of students at the beginning and end of the day. Has there been any thought on how to lessen the flow of students entering and leaving the school to decrease contact? So yes, we are working on a plan to have children come indoors at different times, also to report directly to schools. And that's one of the advantage. That's actually a pro of the half-day plan. Because of the half-day plan, we could adjust our time a little bit to work within the teacher's contract to allow students to get directly off the bus or dropped off from parents and then report directly to the classrooms rather than having to go to large group spaces. So that is something we've been speaking about. It's something that we're working on. All the principals are looking at that now. Next question was, when it comes to the streaming classes, would teacher-centered or would students also be seen streaming? Right now, the plan would be that we would want to stream just the teacher. and we would have a camera on the teacher and keep the children off. Keep the children off the camera. I don't know if Dr. Cullis wants to add anything on that, but that would be the plan right now.
I mean, that would be the plan. We could not film students. So there would not be any direct interaction between the students at home and students at school. They would not probably be if it were live streaming. The teacher, that's what we're kind of playing with. Is it going to be the actual moment that the teacher is doing the mini lesson that's being streamed, or is it videotaping and then immediately uploading it, you know, so that they could see it? But it may not be actual live streaming, you know, because just the nature of teaching, things happen and kids run in front of the camera, or, you know, something, you know, things happen in the classroom that we wouldn't be able to control. So just like as in national media where they have a delay, we may have to consider our delay being we videotape it and then we upload it afterwards, so that we, you know, control for those factors.
So we really do appreciate everybody's comments and questions. If you have any more, please either type them in or let us know. We have a few pros and cons for each of these. I think it's also safe to say, believe it or not, that even if we did decide to go with one of the plans, we may not get it passed and have to switch to the other plan. So I just want everybody to know that there is a chance that the state or the health department doesn't approve it. I did ask for the health department to give me just an idea of how they felt about it, so I'm still waiting to hear back from them. But we do feel strongly that the half-day program is in the best interest of everybody, that we can provide a safe environment that is more conducive to learning, and it also allows for the flexibility, like I just discussed from Mr. Staten's question, to allow our students to come in and out without as many children having to go into large areas. So we're going to go to the next slide, which is next steps. So Mrs. Costanza, if you wouldn't mind moving us, there we go. So next steps. So right now we're going to draft a plan to provide for the half-day instruction. We're also going to keep the other plan in the back burner just in case we don't get it through, but it's a thought. We're going to be doing that from today until July 27th. We would like to have our second meeting on July 28th at 4 p.m. We'll send you the Zoom information, but please mark that down in your calendars. July 28th at 4 p.m. And what we expect to do is provide a draft to parents, hopefully the next day. So I wrote July 29 or about, as well as a survey. So it will allow for parents to see what is the plan that we're providing. Offer up some questions and answers. By the way, all the questions from last night, there were 91 questions and about another 50 or so comments were emailed out and posted on the website today. So if anybody, they could also watch the video and see the PowerPoint from last night. And I know it's a lot of information and people have to follow along. So we're going to do the best we can of providing it in as small a chunks as possible. Even though nobody did that for me, actually. I have 120 questions or something. It was a lot of questions to answer. And I feel sorry for the fact that I'm providing you with the answers to 120 questions at the same time. The reason why the document only has 91 is because we were able to pare down some because the questions were the same, like basically the same question asked over and over again. So we plan to provide this draft to parents as well as a survey. The question on the survey would be about whether or not you could help drive your kids to school, drop them off at school. Would you need daycare? There's a few questions like that. But we would also be asking parents, would you be sending your child back to school? So that we can gauge how many parents may be hesitant to send their children back. Then what we need to do is we have to provide that plan to the Department of Education. And then what we would do after that is have the Board of Education approve the plan on August 10th, which is exactly 30 days prior to the first day of school. And then we would create a video showing the public what would it look like, what would the first day of school look like, or a typical day in the Denville schools look like. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do this summer. it's a big summer. We're opening a building too, which is enough work in itself, and then we're also reopening all the buildings. So it's a large undertaking, but we're up to the task, and having this great group of parents here to help guide us through this endeavor is greatly appreciated. We can't say enough how much we appreciate you jumping on these calls and helping guide us. And we do apologize for some short notices on meetings. It's all around, what's the availability of our staff and vacations over the summer. Everybody's entitled to use their vacation time, and we're trying to get these meetings in. It's important to us. So please, again, mark your calendar for Tuesday, July 28th at 4 p.m. The next slide, please, Mrs. Costanza. We already went through questions, but it's another time if people have questions and they want to either ask them verbally or type them out.
Yes, Steve, I did. I was actually about to ask. This is Jen Cuff. I teach I did teach third grade at Lakeview. I'm still a teacher there. I also have 2 students who are both in Valley View, and I also am the teachers union president, or co-president, I should say. Jen Swickla, who's here, is my other co-president. The 2 questions just popped into my head on that last slide there. When you send out a survey to parents, my first question is, like when you said about them coming back to school, like if they will be indeed sending their student back, is that going to be something where if they are allowed to stay home virtually, are they going to be committing to a certain amount of time? Just because I know that many other places, like that's what they've kind of been asking almost for, like if they are going to keep their student home to do virtual and they are allowed to do that, I know you have to still check on that, it might be for a marking period. Just because I could see that getting confusing for a teacher, like a kid's here one day, they're not here the next day, or they come one week, they're out a week. So that's kind of a question or a concern. And the other one, I know that you said, again, you're sending out a survey. Jen and I were saying it might be a good idea to send out a survey to staff members as well, just to kind of get their feelings on some of these things and any feedback that you might need from them. We could talk about that if you need to.
Yeah, sure. So the first question of return or not would be more like it was the last time. So we did ask already, how likely would you be to return back to school? So there were about almost 900 replies, and about 80% of the people stated that they would be either likely or extremely likely to send their child back. Around 20% said they would be extremely not likely or likely, or not likely, sorry. So what we feel like as a team is that data really isn't as valuable as it would be as the closer we get to school opening, as well as providing the parents with a chance to see what the plan is. So that's why we want to do it a second time. Like, what is your plan? We also do need to hear back from the state on that. We're not sure we will know back from there. So we'll have to, if we don't hear back from the state, which I wouldn't be surprised if we don't, we will have to make a decision on ourselves, on our own, decide whether or not we're going to allow parents to opt children out, and then what's the re-entry point, and the other way too. Somebody says they're not going to do it, and then they want to do it, and then somebody says they are going to do it and doesn't want to do it anymore. So we're going to have to work all that out, and we may have to work that out without the guidance that we've asked for. And as for the staff, we will make sure that we include the staff on any of these things, as well as the letter that was already sent out to staff, and some staff have reached out to me directly as it was asked for in the letter.
And you make a good point, Jen, and definitely been talking about, once they do, if they decide they're staying home, or if whatever the state tells us they're allowed to do, it will have to be, some committed time to return or stay at home, because we may be doing shifts of classrooms depending on the number of people that stay home, right? Because we might, if let's say a large number of people are staying home, then we can shift what we're doing within the class. We can naturally socially distance so that the Swickla's class is not 25 kids and another class is 3. We would shift kids around so that everybody can be smaller, just so we can socially distance on a more consistent basis. So yes, if a parent and the state says that's allowable, and maybe they even choose to homeschool for some portion of time, whatever they decide, we'll have to have some commitment because we're going to make decisions based upon that. You know, you make a great point.
Cindy, would you send it to the next slide, please? So, can you get to the next slide, Cindy? So we will continue to provide as much information as possible. We have a general letter going out to the entire community on Friday with the detail, not all the details, but some information that came from this meeting as well as last night's meeting, including the videos of the meeting so people can watch them themselves and all that Q&A that came from yesterday. That'll go out on Friday as well, but I did already provide it for you, and it is posted on the website, and it has been done. It has been disseminated through our social media as well already. And as we continue this, please don't hesitate to send me any comments, questions, anything like that. Sometimes I answer them quickly. Sometimes it takes me a little while, but I will get back to everybody who asks. And please make sure that when you talk about with the public, that we're, you know, accurate information is going to be the most important thing. What I recommend the most is that you refer everyone back to whatever communications we provide. That way that it's a consistent message out to the public. One of the downfalls of when you're doing a large scale change like this, getting things back together, one of the things that can then cause issues is when the information that's sent out is not accurate. So we would appreciate it if you used the information that we send out when you're communicating as well. If there's any other questions, please let me know. There's one more question that just came in on the chat, so we have it real quick. When it comes to streaming classes, would teacher-centered, we already talked about that, would doors and windows be open to allow for better air circulation? Yes, we would do that as much as possible. And the doors, we only keep doors open when there's personnel in the area, so we could do that at some point. And we could open windows. We do that currently. And we will look at our HVAC to make sure that our filters are changed and all that too. Referring to question number 23 regarding HVAC, we do test the air quality occasionally when needed, and we will change the filters. We do have a system in place for changing filters, and we are revisiting that now. Our business administrator and our director of buildings and grounds are working on that actually today. So thank you to everybody, and we will continue to put it out. Please put the next meeting in your calendar. And thanks again to everybody for participating and being an integral part in our plan to return. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.